for high Gyamfi news. Mema Obibia Akwaba. Latest hot enkwa Aremeyaw Bremo na ansana ensebni nyina beba no. So when you subscribe ya bomori ya se over subscribe na wa like video no give us a thumbs up na fi share ma wo fufuro so na when you be here na wo ensemo ekoso ewo Ghana memo afi yenhwe eye ensemo abeto yepono so inti eye sankobo ya ekoso mama yenti.
Power in this chamber. It's captured. Defense and interior. Just the motion number 10 to read it. I so move. Thank you. As if it was wet. Mr. Speaker, I urge the House to
Science and Technology on the allocation of the sum of 1,349,588,593 for the services of the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology for the year ending 31st December 2036. In doing so, Mr. Speaker, I present the committee report. Mr. Speaker, I urge the Hansa to capture the entirety of the report having been read. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the committee having viewed and examined the 2026 annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Environment.
Motion number 30. Honorable members, those in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say no.
Chaotic scenes in Parliament earlier this evening as Minority Caucus registers its displeasure with a clerk to Parliament for informing the Electoral Commission that the Pandai seat is vacant. That is what sparked all what we saw in Parliament earlier this evening. And in fact, the minority in Parliament earlier this evening, the disruption that we saw in the proceedings in the House as they vowed not to allow parliamentary business and in fact government business to take place in terms of the proceedings in Parliament until the letter from the clerk to the Electoral Commission declaring the Pandai seat vacant is withdrawn. That was their demand. Frank Anodonpre, he is the Minority Chief Whip and Member of Parliament for the Hopeson Adorye constituency. He was quite clear in his words that until that is done, nothing happens in Parliament. Take a look.
Are so important. On that day, you delivered a ruling in response to an application from the Majority Chief Whip, requesting that the Pandai seat be declared vacant. Speaker, in your own reasoning, you recorded clearly and publicly relying on these very procedural rules and affirmed this binding nature. This same inconsistency was seen in the Honorable James Kwaku Annan matter during the 8th Parliament, where you strongly maintain that Parliament must not act while a stay of application is pending. Speaker, with respect, the question that naturally arises is, why has the principle changed? What explains the abrupt departure from the binding reasoning you articulated on 24th November 2025? Why does the stay rule apply in one circumstance, but not the other, particularly when the factual and procedural posture is virtually identical? Speaker, Ghanaians are asking, and we in this House must also ask, is this because Honorable Matthew Nyendam is a member of the New Patriotic Party? Mr. Speaker, the law does not discriminate. The law does not bind or stiffen binding on whether an NPP or NDC member stands before it. The impartial and consistent application of procedural rules is a bedrock of the rule of law and the credibility of this House. If Parliament begins to act as though legal rules are optional, binding on some days and dispensable on other days, then we risk sliding into a dangerous culture of political tit for tat, where each majority and minority merely waits for a turn to get even. Speaker, such a path fractures confidence in this institution and threatens the stability of our democratic order. Mr. Speaker, today it may appear expedient for one side. Tomorrow, the rules may reverse. If we abandon principle today, we leave the future Parliament with a trail of inconsistency that invites retaliation, weakens the authority of Speaker's chair, and erodes public trust. Mr. Speaker, we must do better. And this House must do better. And we must act better. Let us commit ourselves to principle leadership, to procedural fidelity, and to the understanding that this House is a guardian, not a manipulator of the law. Legitimacy of Parliament depends on our consistency. The legitimacy of Parliament depends on our consistency, and we can't do otherwise. And consistency depends on our willingness to obey, not our political impulses, but the clear dictates of the law. Speaker, we strongly submit that the letter that was filed to the Electoral Commission was out of place, was unfortunate, and flies in the face of law and procedural justice. We submit strongly to this House that that letter must be withdrawn by Parliament forthwith.
This would later degenerate into what we've seen, full-blown chaos in the House, as on the floor of Parliament. The minority would not allow the business of the House to take place. They had the papers that were clear with the message in there that until this decision to declare the Kwandai seat vacant is withdrawn, they are not backing down. In fact, the majority on the other side would not also give in. It also carried on with the appropriations despite the disruptions that we saw and the position that the minority had taken on this particular issue. Now, there are quite a number of people who spoke to my colleague, Christian Yale, earlier today on this particular matter and why, to that extent, the position that they had taken, in their view, the minority was clear. They believed that what they were doing was the right way of sending the right message about what had happened related to Matthew Nyendam, a member of Parliament for the Kwandai constituency. Now, this is some members of the minority in Parliament who spoke to my colleague, Christian Yale, earlier today, when all of this was happening, the aftermath of it, and what they intend to do in the coming days. Just take a look at this.
Honorable members, I will suspend sittings for 5 minutes, and I expect to see the leaders of the House at the lobby. Honourable members, Right Honourable Speaker should take the chair.
Defense and Interior. Just the motion number 10 to read it. I so move. Thank you.
As if it was wet. Mr. Speaker, I urge the House to
Science and Technology on the allocation of the sum of 1,349,588,593 for the services of the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology for the year ending 31st December 2036. In doing so, Mr. Speaker, I present the committee report. Mr. Speaker, I urge the Hansa to capture the entirety of the report having been read. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the committee having viewed and examined the 2026 annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Environment.
Motion number 30. Honorable members, those in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, the motion is carried and the House has accordingly adopted. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
With all what was going on, you could still hear the business of the House taking place because the majority had taken the position that the business of the House will go on regardless of what the minority was doing. Mama Yarga proceeded with exactly what had to be done until some point that the levels of disruption could not indeed be countenanced, and that's what we saw. The minority moved to the middle that led to the marshals of parliament now proceeding and coming in to stop them from going further. And this is it. Take a look.
It's for the consideration of the House. Honorable members, I put the question. Those in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The motion is accordingly adopted.
Professor David Abdullah is going to be joining us in a bit, but this is what the minority MPs say is their justification for what they did, despite the condemnation that has come from some quarters for that position and the display earlier this evening in Parliament. Take a listen.
Hours. We filed those processes at the High Court to stay execution. We applied to Court of Appeal for a review of the decision. We also repeated the application for stay at the High Court. Subsequently, we filed the process at the Supreme Court on the other writ of certiorari to quash the decision of the court. And so clearly, everything that has to be done to keep the process going has been filed. How come 2 weeks down the line, even the courts have not initiated the processes to hear the matter? And that for me is worrying, because we all talk about expeditious adjudication of matters, particularly when it comes to petitions of elections. And then importantly, when there's a sitting member of parliament who is supposed to represent the good people of Pandai. And so in this determination, it means that the Pandai people are being denied access to a member of parliament to fight for their needs.
There are some who will say that you did the same in the Gyachikwesin matter.
But that is why I said that the Gyachikwesin matter, we allowed him to go through the full hall of litigation.
So what they are seeking to do is to cool down the temperature and normalize it with a long discussion and then tell us that we can go to court if we don't like it. We need to let people understand that this is a political chamber. And all the tools of the trade are available to us in this political chamber. Now, if injustice is being perpetrated of this nature, we will withdraw cooperation. So what we have done is to withdraw cooperation. And prior to this, we have been cooperating. Every single report that comes, we support. We are working towards appropriation on the 19th. There's no business that we haven't supported. We are minded to support the government business to go on. But now that they have elected to put a spanner in their own works by trying to use instruments of state to snatch this seat from us, we are left with no choice than to suspend cooperation for as long as Mr. Speaker has been pressurized to renege on his earlier ruling. That ruling sits with precedent. And as long as he's been pressurized, then we are afraid that he's now acquiescing to that pressure. Because what he told our leadership 2 days ago is not what we are seeing flying on social media. And there are efforts now to maneuver and say, let's go by procedure, let's hear from this side. It's unfortunate. But our caucus has been clear that cooperation will be withdrawn until that assurance is given that that letter is not genuine and that the Honorable Matthew Nyindam remains Member of Parliament for Pandai.
And it is something that is very shameful to the majority side, that you need to pass your motions, you need to pass your budget, that we have security personnel who are in the chamber guiding and safeguarding the speaker before such things have been passed. There is no single business that has happened today, because the parliamentary proceeding, you have been covering parliamentary proceedings. Have you ever seen that they have taken the maize from its original position while parliamentary business is on? The maize is the symbol of authority to parliament.
We'll hear from some majority MPs in a bit, but joining us on Zoom right now is Professor David Abdullah. He is a governance expert and also the director of the African Parliamentary Network. He's joining us on Zoom. It's on a mission outside of the country. Thank you for joining us, Professor Abdullah. I appreciate your time. You had the minority MPs there. That's Kojo Kyeremanteng, a member of parliament, as well Habib Idris, who's a part of the leadership of the minority in parliament. Their view is that to the extent that and this is what Kojo Kyeremanteng said, that this is the tool available to them, what they did this evening, and that they will continue to withdraw cooperation until this Pandai situation is reversed. But the chaos, quite a spectacle, is it not?
I think it's very sad that our legislature is brought down to this kind of behavior. We have to understand, like I said, anytime you are in a leadership position, it's a privilege to serve your country. And if the minority really does not support what is happening, or the rerun of the elections in Pandai, they have better ways of expressing their displeasure than to try to stop the business of Parliament. The last time I heard the Speaker said he was going to crack his whip, and I did mention that speaking about cracking the whip is not enough. You must crack the whip. You must make examples of a few of those parliamentarians who are rowdy and do not understand that the business of a parliament is not about being rowdy. It's not the street. If he doesn't do that, it is going to continue. And it's going to continue. And at the end of the day, it is Ghana that suffers. It is our legislative process that suffers. And other countries would actually be laughing at us. They will look at us as clowns. But it can all be brought to an end if you really say you are going to crack the whip. Please, Mr. Speaker, do it. And do it without any fear.
I get the sense that you're placing all of this squarely at the doorstep of the Speaker for, in your view, not cracking the whip in previous instances of the chaos involving members of Parliament in Parliament that's on the floor or at a committee sitting. Is that the clear reasoning that you're blaming the Speaker for this?
Well, he's a leader. And as a leader, like I always say, Nene, leadership is not a popularity contest. If people are not in line, you make sure that they are in line. And you have to show that at the end of the day, one of the reasons why you are a leader is that the work and the business of Parliament should take place. And he has the legal rights and the power to do so. If he doesn't do so, it will continue. I mean, if you have a naughty and rowdy kid in your house, you have to make sure that you discipline them. That discipline would make it in such a way that the next time when they see fire, they're not going to touch it. I don't think this is democracy. I think this is rowdiness. There are other ways of being able to express yourself democratically.
I see you describe this as rowdiness, simple and pure. But then again, you hear Kojo Kyeremanteng say this is one of the tools that is available to them to employ. But reference has been made to what happened in January during the vetting of some of the ministerial nominees at the appointments committee, where we saw the chaos that led to tables being broken, microphones being destroyed, and the entire sitting disrupted as well. It was a chaotic scene. We saw an investigation instituted. Some 4 members of Parliament were suspended. I think that was not deterring enough to send a clear message to the members of Parliament that don't engage in this chaos again?
Yes. I mean, if you do something and you are not punished, if the standing orders and the work and the business of Parliament is done and they say, I'm going to punish you and you are not punished, well, the next time you do it again, you know? So if they were severely punished, and actually the punishment should go beyond just the police, it should also go to hit their pockets and their pocket books. Can you?
I say, but in you're talking about the punishment going to hit their pockets, as in what? Have their salaries deducted? In asking the Speaker to do more than what he has done, in instances gone by, you hear him either issue a caution or a warning to the members of Parliament involved, and then the suspension that we saw of Frank Anodopre, Jerry Ahmed, Hassan Tampoli, Nelson Roxon Dafiamako in the first instance in January, right? What else could he have done, or should he have done, to send a clear message to the MPs not to engage in this pandemonium again?
Okay. Anytime these rowdy MPs break the standing orders of the House, they should be punished. I think just speaking about punishing them is not enough. You should really punish them and make sure that most of them would learn not to do that again. I also think there should be more of an education process going on, just not only punishment alone. And they should be mentored and made to know that, you are leaders.
Right.
Whatever you are doing to make laws and whatever you are doing in parliament, first you are actually training the young people who are going to be the future parliamentarians to understand that parliament is a serious place to do business, to make the laws of the country. And also to realize that others are looking at us. And when that happens, we become a laughing stock. Not only are we going to become like a laughing stock, everybody respects the current state of democracy in Ghana. And that democracy doesn't mean they don't have rights, but they also have responsibilities. And those responsibilities have to do with the fact that they don't start, breaking chairs, turning tables, acting rowdy. It doesn't help. It doesn't help the process. And I think they can do better. And if they don't do that, they will lose respect. Their constituencies are watching and they see what they are doing. And I think it should be important. It should go down that at the end of the day, you can express yourself, but expressing yourself in such a way that, you are moving beyond the point whereby you are disrupting business, then it doesn't feel good and it's not right. And I think I will say it again, the speaker should step up. He should make sure that when these things happen, you cannot let it go like that. Those who cause that should be punished.
I see. And you hear some the minority MPs, in fact, a number of them who are posted on social media, also defending this particular act as one of the mechanisms that they're using to send a clear message on what happened. You see some of the MPs, in fact, moving into the middle, essentially disrupting the business of the House. The majority was clear that they had to go ahead. We saw some papers flying. One of the minority MPs threw some papers at the clerk to Parliament, almost closer to the Speaker of Parliament as well. And all of this, what should be done to ensure this doesn't happen again?
Yes, and that is unfortunate, because once you start behaving like that, then all respect is thrown out of the window. And not only respect for the Parliament and its procedures, but for yourself. I mean, we are not in an animal kingdom, and I think it therefore prays that in most cases, whether you agree or disagree with somebody, you can go through the process by dialoguing, by speaking to them, by making sense, by coming to a consensus to agree not to agree or to agree to disagree. And I think fisticuffs is not a good thing. Can you imagine if somebody provokes you? You should have the patience to rise above the occasion and show to the person that you are a leader. You do understand that at the end of the day, two people tagging over a calabash is going to split it. It's not going to help. And I don't think this is what the people voted our parliamentarians for. The parliamentarians are supposed to make laws for our people and to help our country grow. Yes, democracy is not that easy, and it's not something that people take lightly, but it is something that we should all agree to, that at the end of the day, if I disagree with you, I don't have to fight you. I'm not a pugilist. They are not pugilists. They are not there to engage in pugilism. So I feel so bad, but at the same time, I'm disappointed in these kind of people that we voted. And I think come the next elections, I don't think some of them will be there anymore.
Well, that's a very interesting prediction to make, but we'll see how the coming days will look like on this. Thank you, Professor David Abdullahi. Thank you very much. And you made reference to what happened in January. We have a video of that just recall the chaos in January, but Dr. Jonathan Asante is joining us as well on Zoom. But, well, this is it. This is what happened in January during that appointments committee, the vetting of some of the ministerial nominees. Let's take a listen to this, and Dr. Jonathan Asante will join us. Dr. Chochi is joining us on Zoom. He's a senior political, it's a political analyst, senior lecturer, and the executive director of the Africa Institute of Strategic Studies. Thank you, Dr. Chochi. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
You watched what happened in Parliament earlier this evening. Professor Abdullah is of the view that, look, there hasn't been enough punishment to send a clear signal. But just a quick one from you on this. It has happened again after what happened in January. What should be the thinking going forward to ensure we don't see this chaos again in Parliament?
Well, let me say good evening to your viewers and to your good self. I think that the Speaker, as he rightly pointed out in the beginning of the 9th Parliament, he assured all Ghanaians that he was going to protect the micro-minority. And I presume that is the more reason why he's been more or less tampering, justice with some kind of mercy. And it is becoming one too many. We seem to have a kind of minority that of the view that unless it is through some kind of rowdyism, their voices or their views will not be heard. It's as if it is not enough when they dialogue or put across superior argument, and the only means by which they can achieve the result that in their view should be or come in their way. This is the only means by which they can do that. And I think that it is about time the Speaker changed his mind and ensure that he cracked the whips, because as part of the sanctions, some kind of financial sanctions could be meted out to those that could be considered as the perpetrators. And to crown it all, I think is an embarrassment of the kind of leadership that we are seeing in the minority today. It's just quite unfortunate.
Let's see. Now, well, he's doing the job of a speaker. That's what he said. You see it as protection, but then again, you heard the minority MPs. This is a tool that's available to them, they say, to drum home their message to the same speaker that you're saying is protecting them.
I think that they have taken this protection to a different level, to the point that they have become disrespectful of the speaker. How many times did he have to stand up in order to catch the eye, of both sides especially, and especially so the minority? And so I believe that this probably father for all mentality will have to stop somewhere. But, Alfred, what I see in the minority's behavior is nothing else but a fear of the potential loss of Pandai seat. It's not about the legal incumbencies. It is about the fact that the minority currently is unattractive. And if you look at the performance of the central government, so to speak, then it points out to me that they stand at a crossroads and potentially they could lose that particular seat, should they even go for the rerun. And that is the more reason why I believe that they are going on that particular tangent, thinking that that could be the best way of solving this particular problem. It is not as though they are ready for it. Apart from that, that also means that they are likely to get some reduction in numbers. And that could equally affect their position. So some of us felt that, look, this belligerent position of the minority, spearheaded by the minority leader, today I didn't really see him. I was told that he was there and then he left. But I thought that having seen the minority misbehaving or misconducting themselves in that manner, he ought to have come back wherever he had gone to. But he chose not to return at all. So who was leading the pack of minority? It is just unfortunate. And so I'm of the view that apart from those things that I've said, the father for all mentality cannot work to a large extent. The speaker will have to crack the whip one way or the other. Other than that, the 9th Parliament, that you have a huge majority against, a micro minority, this feature of vandalism, this feature of rowdyism, of this belligerent posturing of the minority will characterize this particular parliament. That ought not to be the case.
All
Even
right.
when in the parliament where we had the hung parliament, it was not as bad as it is.
Okay.
Because this time around, it's surprising that you have the minority that do not have the numbers, rather trying to torpedo that of the majority.
Well, stay with me.
The minority will have to
Dr.
sit
Asante, yes, great. Stay with me because I need your thoughts on the next issue. But coming up next is a related matter as well, because what happened in Parliament earlier this evening was all about the situation in the Kwandai constituency, the letter by the clerk to Parliament to the Electoral Commission notifying the Electoral Commission of a vacancy in Parliament. Well, in the Kwandai constituency earlier today, the paramount chief of Kwandai takes on his own sub-chiefs for declaring their opposition to the parliamentary election rerun. So it's a very interesting development. It's not only a situation on the political front, we're seeing it also play out at the traditional front as well, because if you recall yesterday, a group of chiefs, sub-chiefs who addressed the press indicating that they were for peace and they didn't endorse any form of by-election that this entire court ruling was now going to lead to. But now, the paramount chief of Kwandai, Nana Brestiam Okore Atosa II, has criticized a group of his sub-chiefs for declaring the opposition to a parliamentary election rerun in the Kwandai constituency. That was that press conference yesterday. Why don't you take a listen to him?
We, the chiefs, respectfully are calling on the president and all stakeholders to ensure that the will of the people of Kwandai constituency is duly respected regarding the 2024 parliamentary elections. We and our subject gathered here today are a mix of sympathizers of both NDC and MPP, and would want to live in peace. And so we say, no rerun in our constituency. We do highly respect the ruling of the court, all right, but we are all of the strongest view that it will not bring peace if it is upheld. We will not tolerate any attempt to use violence to change or overturn the verdict of the people of Kwandai. We respectfully request Honorable Daniel Nsalawakbal to hold his breath.
It was the press conference yesterday. Now here the paramount chief today. Take a look.
Chiefs and leaders, opinion leaders in Kwandai are saying that we are nobody to stand against the verdict of the court. We will vote if the chance comes from the court. And again, we fear nobody. Kwandai is peaceful, and anybody telling you Kwandai is at war, the person is a liar. And again, we, the people seated here, we are saying.
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.